The day the police headquarters in Umuahia went up in flames, the CCTV captured a man walking out of the front gate in a slow, confident stride, clutching a pistol, with blood on his hands and a police badge around his neck. That man was Inspector Paul Naji. He had served the Nigeria police force for 30 years. Rain or sun, gunfire or riots, Paul had been there. But when he retired, all he got from the government was a check of 500,000 naira and a pat on the back. No home, no pension plan, no medical coverage, nothing. His wife, Ngozi, was already battling stage 4 cancer. They begged the hospital to keep her longer. He tried loans, asked friends, even went to the commissioner. Nobody helped. She died in his arms on a rainy Tuesday morning. All because he couldn't afford her last chemotherapy. That same night, Paul made a decision. If Nigeria would not honor his 30 years of service, then Nigeria would pay in blood. He disappeared for months. When he returned, he wasn't alone. He had built a deadly gang, full of retired and corrupt serving officers. Their hideout was deep in Ojuku Forest, where only the wind dared speak. And the chaos was only beginning. They struck again last night. A bullion van on the expressway between Aba and Owerri was hijacked. 5 policemen were found dead, their heads shaved and left in a circle. The van was empty, 420 million naira gone. CCTV footage showed masked men in police uniforms. The leader walked tall and calm, dragging a blood-stained police baton. Inspector Paul was now known as the General. He trained his gang like a paramilitary unit. Every raid was coordinated with military precision. They didn't just rob, they sent a message. A message to the government that abandoned them. The state was thrown into panic. Banks shut down early. Transport unions cancelled night trips. People started sleeping with one eye open. Governor Felix Orji called for an emergency security meeting. Frustrated and embarrassed, he fired the state commissioner of police. Still, the robberies continued. Kidnappings became frequent. Targets were always wealthy, politicians, businessmen, even judges. Ransom calls came with recordings of tortured screams. The people were angry, but deep inside, some understood why Paul was doing this. The streets whispered his name like a ghost story told at night. But it was no ghost. It was a man betrayed, and he wasn't done yet. At exactly 2:14 a.m., Governor Orji woke up to find a human skull in his living room, wrapped in the Nigerian flag, with a bullet lodged between its eyes. A note was pinned to it. "Justice must bleed." He screamed. His wife fainted. Security agents stormed the mansion, but the CCTV had been wiped clean. Paul had crossed the line. The governor knew conventional security had failed. The police couldn't catch one of their own, especially one who trained many of them. At 8 a.m., a press conference was held. "For the safety of this state, I am taking a bold step," Orji announced. "I will recruit 7 exceptional youth corps members with unique abilities. Whoever captures this gang will be given 100 million naira and my seat at Government House." The country gasped. The NYSC board objected, but he waved them off. They are the only ones untainted, innocent, smart. Soon, flyers and radio jingles began. 7 were selected. They were not just corps members, they were legends in their own fields. But none of them knew the real storm waiting ahead. Because while they had been selected as heroes, they were also being baited. And only one would walk away with everything. The 7 arrived like stars. Ken the tech wizard had built a functional mini-drone that once exposed a senator's illegal gold mine. Stephanie the slay queen had men weak with just her smile. Obong the wrestler once dragged a broken-down BRT bus off the road with his bare hands. EK the wise man had dreams that came true. Hawa the archer never missed her target, not even blindfolded. Temi the singer could stop riots with her voice alone. And Aduwa the herbalist once revived a poisoned student with a potion made from grass and kola nut. They were powerful, yes, but proud. During their first meeting at the government house, they argued for over an hour. Who would lead, who would take the glory, who deserved the money most. The governor watched them from behind tinted glass and sighed. 7 champions. 7 egos, he muttered. But Paul's gang was not arguing. They were organizing their next attack, a full assault on the state's central bank. The NYSC 7 had barely introduced themselves when war drums began beating. And somewhere deep in Ojuku Forest, a man with gray hair and a soldier's heart whispered, "Let the games begin." The bank heist was brutal. 10 armed men stormed the Abia State Central Bank at midday. They wore black, their faces covered. The leader walked in calmly, placed a grenade on the manager's desk, and said, "Withdraw your last breath." They left with over $1 billion naira. 6 people died, including 2 pregnant women. As they escaped, drones deployed by the army tried to trace them, but all were jammed by a strange signal. The government's tech team couldn't explain it. Roads were blocked, but Paul and his men vanished like shadows. The city was paralyzed with fear. The NYSC 7 were given 48 hours to act. The team relocated to a secured base in Umuahia. Ken took the lead, mapping out the robbery pattern. "They have military training," he said. "Every move is calculated. This isn't greed, it's war." Obong slammed the table. "Then let's go to war." But EK, the wise man, shook his head. "We are walking into a trap. The general isn't just fighting back. He's recruiting fear." Stephanie rolled her eyes. "We don't have time for riddles." The tension was building, and in the shadows of their camp, a spy sent by Paul was already feeding the gang every single detail about their mission, even their weaknesses. Aduwa's charms burned out that night. He screamed in his sleep, his skin blistering like fire had touched him. When he woke up, he said only one thing: "The forest is angry. Blood is coming." None of them took him seriously. Temi was busy trying to calm Aduwa. Stephanie was complaining about the smell of incense. Hawa quietly sharpened her arrows, while Ike sat cross-legged, muttering a prayer. Ken was the only one working, setting up surveillance drones that could fly 5 kilometers undetected. "We track Paul with this," he said. "Once he talks, we listen." But by morning, one of the drones crashed, its memory card wiped clean. Someone had touched it. Only 7 of them were supposed to be there. Or so they thought. When Ken ran the room surveillance data, he noticed something terrifying. At exactly 3:08 a.m., a blurry figure appeared in their camp. No one had seen it come in. No one heard it leave. It simply walked into Aduwa's shrine tent and vanished. EK clutched his staff and said, "We're not hunting men anymore. We're hunting a man with spirits behind him." And the worst part? Paul knew who among them would betray the others, because he had seen it before. The betrayal came faster than expected. Ken's second drone, his most advanced, was stolen. And it wasn't Paul who took it. It was one of them. During their private debrief, EK stood up slowly and placed a hand on Temi's shoulder. "Your voice is powerful," he said, "but someone here is singing a different song." Temi frowned. "What do you mean?" "I had a dream last night. A body burned in the forest. But it wasn't Paul's. It was one of us." Stephanie hissed. "So now your dreams are law." Obong got angry. "Enough riddles. Let's act." But EK wasn't done. He looked straight at Ken. "You're the smartest." "Yes. But only the smart can betray." Ken's lips tightened. He had indeed spoken with Paul. Once. A call. An offer. "Join us. You'll be rich beyond imagination. No more begging this government for respect." Ken refused. But now, someone had accepted the offer. Later that night, the stolen drone appeared online, streaming a live video. The general was seated on a throne made of old police batons. He looked straight at the camera and smiled. "Divide them," he whispered. "Then defeat them." And then, he named one of the corpers as his next target. Stephanie. Stephanie vanished. They searched the entire compound. Her boots were outside her room. Her phone was still charging. But Stephanie was gone, like smoke in Harmattan. Obong blamed EK. EK blamed the forest. Temi blamed the governor. But Hawa didn't say a word. Instead, she went into the bush and followed footprints only a hunter's eye could see. After 2 hours, she found blood. Then a scarf. Stephanie's scarf. Near it, a note written in lipstick. "One of you led them to me." They brought the message back, stunned and shaken. Back in the hideout, Ken locked himself in his tech room. He pulled up facial scan data from their past missions. Only one person's pattern didn't match with his NYSC records. Aduwa, the herbalist who never showed an official letter of posting. The one who spoke to trees. But before Ken could speak, the lights went off. A loud bang echoed from the northern fence. The general's gang had found them. And this time, they came with fire. As bullets rained down and smoke filled the sky, EK turned to Ken and whispered, "Tell me now, who betrayed us?" But Ken's mouth was already full of blood. The compound was on fire. Explosions shook the ground as the gang rained bullets from all sides. Obong was the first to charge, shirtless, eyes red. He lifted a metal door like it weighed nothing and used it as a shield. Hawa climbed the water tank, launching arrows with deadly precision. Every pull of her string meant one enemy down. Temi screamed, a high-pitched note that caused ringing in their ears and distracted the attackers for a brief moment. EK used the confusion to drag Ken's bleeding body to safety. Aduwa, gone, vanished the moment the fighting started. Inside the tech room, Ken whispered his final words. "Check, drone, folder Falconeye. Aduwa is not who he says." Then he stopped breathing. Temi wept bitterly. Why him? Why the smartest? But EK was still. His mind will finish the war even though his body is gone. Hawa ran back from the tower. They are retreating. Yes, Paul's gang pulled back, but not before leaving a message on the compound gate. Painted in red. "This is only the beginning. The Slay Queen now serves the forest." Stephanie had switched sides, and her seduction wasn't just for charm anymore. Now, it was deadly. Deep inside Ojuku Forest, Stephanie wore a black scarf over her face and knelt before the general. Paul Naji looked into her eyes. "Why did you come?" Stephanie lowered her head. "Because I'm tired of being used. You want justice. So do I." He nodded slowly. "Then you will learn pain." He didn't trust her, but he saw value. In her beauty, in her rage. And soon, Stephanie proved herself. She seduced a top DSS agent and led him to the forest. His body was later found, naked, blindfolded, and drained of blood. Her code name became Black Rose. Back at the camp, the team was broken. Obong's hand had been shot. Temi had lost her voice temporarily. Ken was gone. Aduwa was missing. The governor was furious. "Do you want my seat or not?" EK stepped forward. "This is no longer about your seat. This is war, and the enemy knows us better than we know ourselves." The governor clenched his fist. "Then kill them." But EK didn't answer. Instead, he entered Ken's tech lab, played the encrypted folder called Falconeye, and froze. It wasn't just Aduwa. There was another spy in their midst. And this time, it was someone none of them suspected. Temi. Her name appeared in Ken's final video log. Hidden camera footage showed her talking on the phone, using an ancient dialect from the forest regions of Kogi. She wasn't crying. She wasn't afraid. She was giving coordinates. EK couldn't believe it. Temi, the singer, the peacebringer, the one who calmed chaos. Ken had caught her the same day Aduwa went missing, but he never confronted her. He was waiting for proof. Now the proof was here. Obong refused to believe it. "Temi, she saved my life." Hawa didn't speak. She simply stared at Temi from across the fire that night. They were down to 4. 1 dead, 1 missing, 2 corrupted. EK summoned Temi. "Your voice heals, yes, but now it carries death." "Why?" Temi stared at him coldly. "This country killed my father, laughed at my mother's tears. This system doesn't deserve peace." EK nodded. "Then we'll give it war." She attacked first. A hidden blade under her tongue swung straight at Ike's throat. But Hawa's arrow caught her hand midair. Temi screamed as Obong tackled her to the ground. She spat in Ike's face. "You'll never beat the general. Not even in your dreams." Ike wiped his cheek and whispered, "Then I'll stop dreaming." Temi was locked in an iron cage. The camp was quiet. Too quiet. Only 3 remained: Ike, Obong, and Hawa. Ike spent the night meditating, hoping for a vision. But the forest remained silent. Hawa sharpened her arrows by candlelight. Obong boiled with rage. "No more plans. Let's storm that forest and burn it all." Ike shook his head. "You rush in, you die. Paul wants us desperate." They needed help. Real help. So, Ike sent a message to someone unexpected. Adua. He wasn't a spy. He was on a mission. After disappearing, Adua went deep into the sacred part of Ojuku Forest to speak to the spirits of fallen heroes, police officers who died forgotten. He returned at dawn, body scarred with strange marks and eyes glowing faintly. "I have seen their end," he said softly. "But one of us must not return." "Who?" Hawa asked. Adua looked at Obong, then Ike, and finally at himself. "I can't say." They moved out by midnight. With Temi gagged and tied, they set their path toward the belly of the forest. As they walked in, Adua whispered to the trees, "Forgive us. We come not to conquer, but to cleanse." The final battle was near, but only 2 would make it out alive. The forest swallowed them. Ojuku Forest was no ordinary place. It breathed. It watched. It whispered names of the dead. Every branch cracked like bones. Every breeze smelled of blood. The 4 corpers moved in silence, Adua leading with charms in both hands, Hawa behind him with an arrow drawn, Obong carrying Temi over his shoulder, and Ike clutching Ken's last tech gadget, a heartbeat scanner shaped like a phone. Suddenly, the scanner beeped. Dozens of heartbeats. They were surrounded. Without a word, Adua scattered white chalk powder into the air. The forest moaned. Gunshots rang out, but no bullets hit. His charm had confused their location. From the shadows, figures emerged, masked, armed, and dangerous. Paul's gang. The final confrontation had begun. Obong dropped Temi to the ground and roared into battle, grabbing one man by the neck and snapping it clean. Hawa spun, releasing arrows with surgical aim. Adua chanted under his breath. Bullets fired at them curved mid-air and hit trees instead. Ike rushed toward the cave entrance, the heart of the gang's operation. Inside it, he saw Paul. Alone. No guards. No gun. Just sitting by a fire with Stephanie beside him, smiling. The general looked up slowly. "I've been expecting you," he said. Ike didn't blink. Paul stood from the fire, calm like a retired king. "You're younger than I imagined," Paul said, "but your eyes carry pain." "And yours carry blood," Ike replied. Paul chuckled. "Blood that was forced from me. This country chewed me and spat me out. 30 years of loyalty, rewarded with 500,000 naira and a dead wife." Stephanie stood beside Paul, now dressed in full black, armed with 2 pistols. "We are not the villains," she said. "We are the forgotten." Ike stepped closer. "You turned justice into revenge. Now it's our turn." But Paul wasn't afraid. "What will you do, boy? Arrest me? Kill me? That won't stop this rot." Outside, gunshots echoed. Obong had been shot in the leg. Hawa was out of arrows. Adua's charms were burning through his skin. Suddenly, Temi screamed from the forest. "Ike, it's a trap." Too late. Stephanie pulled the trigger. But Ike was faster. He slammed the heartbeat scanner onto the cave floor. It exploded into blinding white light, Ken's final invention. The tech had stored solar energy, turned into a non-lethal EMP blast. Stephanie screamed, blinded. Paul staggered back, coughing, and Ike ran towards him, ready to end it all. The dagger Adua gave Ike was forged from iron, fire, and prayer. He plunged it straight into Paul's shoulder. The general let out a deep, broken cry, more from heartbreak than pain. Outside, the gang members began to scatter. With their leader injured and blinded by Ken's invention, they had lost faith. Obong limped into the cave, bleeding. Hawa crawled beside him, exhausted. They had made it. Aduwa followed, body steaming from too many charms used too quickly. Ek held Paul by the collar. It ends here. But Paul smiled. It doesn't. Suddenly, Stephanie rose behind them, blade in hand, charging toward Ek. Before she could reach him, a loud bang echoed. Temi. She had found a rifle on the battlefield. Her hands trembled, but her aim was true. Stephanie fell, gasping, confused, and finally still. Silence. For the first time since this war began, the forest held its breath. Aduwa walked over to Paul, placed herbs on his wounds, and whispered, "You may not live, but you'll face the country in chains." Paul looked up. "You think they'll reward you? They'll use you. Then forget you too." Ek stepped back. "Then we'll write our own story." The governor watched from a secure drone feed as Paul was handcuffed and dragged out of the forest. His jaw tightened. His plan had worked, but it had gone too far. Obong was rushed to the hospital. Hawa lost 3 fingers. Temi couldn't sleep for days. Aduwa's body went into a coma, his spiritual energy drained. Only Ek walked out upright, though his eyes told a different story. At the state ceremony held 2 days later, the governor addressed the nation. "Justice has prevailed. Evil has been conquered. Our youth have saved us." People cheered. But behind the smiles was politics. The press asked, who among the 7 will receive the governor's seat and the 100 million naira reward? The governor paused. Before he could speak, Ek stepped forward. "I don't want your money." Gasps. "I don't want your office." More gasps. "I want something else. Public records to be opened." Paul's file. His 30 years of service. Every police pensioner's file. "Let the people see how you treat heroes." The governor froze. Ek turned to the cameras. "If we bury truth, it will always come back. Sometimes wearing a police badge. Sometimes wearing a mask." Then he walked off the stage, and the people started clapping. 1 week later, the country exploded with outrage. News stations broadcasted Paul Naja's service history: 30 years, 119 commendations, 0 corruption charges, and 500,000 naira retirement payout. Pensioners across Nigeria took to the streets. Retired soldiers, teachers, and police officers marched peacefully but boldly. Posters of Paul were everywhere, not as a villain, but as a broken man turned monster. The government scrambled for control. Back at the camp, Hawa received a prosthetic designed by Ken. Temi began voice therapy. Obong became a public speaker for wounded veterans. Aduwa woke up after 9 days. His first words were, "Is the forest still angry?" Ek laughed for the first time. "You calmed it." Despite everything, there was still no clear winner. No official announcement. Then, late one night, the governor called a press conference. Ek is the rightful person to sit here, but he rejected it. The crowd was silent. "So I will instead create a council, a new youth security board, and Ek will lead it. Not alone, but with the 6 others who walked through fire and came out alive." And for the first time in history, 7 corpers were given power to rewrite the system they once served. But their journey wasn't over. The system was still watching. In a small, hidden cell at the edge of Abuja, Paul sat on a bench, eyes fixed on a cracked wall. He hummed a song his wife used to sing. One morning, he received a visitor. It was Ek, alone. Paul looked up. "Come to dance on my grave?" Ek sat down. "No. I came to ask if you regret it." Paul sighed. "No. I regret not doing it sooner. They made me this way. I just followed their script." Ek nodded. "But now, the story is changing." Paul leaned forward. "I read the news. You exposed them. They'll never forgive you." "I didn't do it for them," Ek said. I did it for people like you, and my father, who died waiting for his pension. Paul blinked, in silence. Then he chuckled. You have my respect, boy. But be careful, Nigeria doesn't forget, and it doesn't forgive. EK stood to leave. Paul called out, if you ever want to burn it all down, come back. I'll be here. EK didn't look back. Outside, the world was shifting. And for the first time in years, people believed that maybe, just maybe, things could change. The Youth Security Board got its first major task within 72 hours. A criminal cartel had emerged in Kano, smuggling arms through fake NYSC uniforms. This time, it wasn't a retired officer leading them. It was a serving senator. EK deployed the team. Temi led negotiations. Hawa covered the rooftops. Obong stormed the hideout. Aduwa blessed the bullets. In 6 hours, it was over. No casualties. No excuses. Just clean, smart justice. The media went wild. But the former governor watched from retirement, uneasy. They are too loved, too powerful. Soon they'll be untouchable. Rumors started to fly. Was the board planning to enter politics? Would EK run for president one day? He didn't respond. Instead, he visited the graves of fallen corpses who never made it out of Ojuku forest. He poured libation, whispered a prayer, and said, "We fight for you too." Meanwhile, in prison, Paul received a letter. Handwritten. One line. You were right. They never cared. But now, they have to. Paul smiled softly. Perhaps this was his redemption after all. Not by surviving, but by becoming the fire that exposed the rot. A new president was sworn in. In his inauguration speech, he mentioned only one name outside politics. EK Chidiebere, visionary, warrior, and a reminder that young Nigerians are not our future. They are our now. The crowd erupted, but EK sat quietly in his seat, surrounded by his team. He didn't smile. He didn't clap. He simply looked at the sky. In Ojuku forest, trees had begun to regrow. The blood had dried. The spirits had gone quiet. Peace, for now. Later that night, EK received a letter at his doorstep. No sender, just his name on the front. Inside were the words, "Run, chosen one, run. They have seen your light, and they are coming." He looked around, but the night was silent. And from the shadows, a pair of eyes watched. Because when you touch the heart of a broken system, it doesn't die. It waits. And when it rises again, it remembers everything.